Recording in progress.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The June 5th meeting of the zoning board of appeals for the town of Ossining. My name is Sal Pereira, chairman. Joining me this evening are members of the zoning board of appeals, town attorney, secretary, building inspector. Please introduce yourself for the record, please.
Lynn Farrell on Wills. David O'Neill, member. David Freeman.
John Turnquist, building inspector.
We have one hearing this evening. We'll read the public notice and then request the applicant or the representative to give an explanation of the brief sought. Anyone that has a comment should raise their hand if they're here in person and or on the computer with their name and address. After the comments are received, the board will try to render a decision either this evening or for those beyond a reasonable time. We will adjourn and have another meeting. Public input will be a maximum of 3 minutes per person. Because of the last time we had meetings like this, it went on for hours, so 3 minutes will be the max. Notice of a public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing, the town of Ossining zoning board of appeals, will be held on Monday, June 5th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. in person and via Zoom video conferencing on the application of Bethany Arts Community, BAC, 40 Somerstown Road, Ossining, New York, in accordance with the zoning code of the town of Ossining, section 200-45, reference C, special permits in section 200-7B, reference 7. Use is permitted by special permit upon approval of the zoning board of appeals for the artist community. The applicant is seeking a special permit to operate an artist community in the R41 family residential zone. The property is located at 40 Somerstown Road in the unincorporated area of the town of Ossining, New York, owned by Bethany Arts Community, Inc., and is identified on the tax map, the town of Ossining as section 90.10. Lot 3, Lot 27, located in the R41 family district. All interested persons are invited to attend the public hearing in person or in video conferencing Zoom, and they'll send comments by email to the town of Ossining Building Department, or by regular mail to the town of Ossining zoning board of appeals, post office box 1166, Ossining, New York. All application material and plans on file with the town of Ossining Building Department, 101 Route 9A, Ossining, New York. By order of the zoning board of appeals, Sal Pereira, chairman, dated May 26, 2023. Representative, I'm supposed to give us an explanation of what we're looking at here for approval of a special permit. And also, I'd like to dive into the compliances that the client intends to adhere to with regards to the letter that you sent to us. For those that have not received it, Darren and Clements sent in very well presented format of what this client intends to do with the site. And I think the brief explanation of what their intent is as compared to what the new law that the board, town of Ossining approved, to give us a better understanding of what we're looking at here. And then we'll open it up to the board and then to the public. Thank you.
Assignments is John Lyons. David Lyons. I know it drops my face very well. David Lyons is founder, president, and Bonnie, director. So you're here tonight. So you probably know more of the solution than I am. two special permits and then non-alcoholic beverage. General vision code this use. 15 is the special vote, and then 2019 modification. The when that the artist ordinance and it's done to do with playing with the ordinance to provide clarity as to the regulations and specifics with respect to any artist use on property and then specifically to regulate artist use property in the town. So many of the provisions from the special permit and others were incorporated directly into the law and into the ordinance. The ordinance goes into detail, hours of use, permitted uses, days, evening events, what happens if you have an event over certain people. For a permit, creates delineation for that. It also has many of the same requirements and restrictions that which can be obstruction of events within the property line, residential property lines, amplification to outdoor use over some hours, and we can some of them are a little more restrictive than what our conditions were before, and others a little less. Program for the Bethany Center is not changing dramatically, pretty much the same. Classes for the school year, school programs, adult classes, exhibits, performances, there, a number of festivals and outdoor events throughout the year. Most of those have to get a chapter lesson. 75. These hours are pretty much the same. They have a local residence program for artists, 5 units. 21 of those units are being presently used on a monthly basis. Again, those are local artists mostly having a studio to work in. There's also a residency program for 2 artists currently in residence. A group of 9, so there are 32 bedroom with 27 units on the property. Now, again, not an expansion, same build. I should say there's no change to the building being proposed, no improvements, no expansion, any of the physical activity. So it's pretty much the same program. They would force like to continue to develop that, develop the program, make it better, possibly increase the number of some children or after school programs and so forth. And I think it's accurate to say, I know I wasn't here, but the chairman might have happened. I know that this application, this use, went through a pretty robust process previously. A lot of neighborhood participation. There has been very little, any complaints in recent years that have gotten. Fair to say that zoning went through readily, and public hearings held. There wasn't any. I think to everyone's credit, communities, Bethany, the towns, this use has worked on this property, and this become a real, seems like a real amenity. To be honest with you, enough that one of my grandchildren, my granddaughter and Harry, he'd come home and go, what you want to do is that's spell on me, it would disappear. But luckily, that so we're seeking the approval special permit. Doing in accordance with the provisions of this code, we are in the complete compliance with all the current programs, complete compliance with all the provisions of the code. Now, but I know there's a dialogue and interaction to ensure that whatever we're doing is not. So, questions? We can continue.
Reiterate the number of apartments that are going to be utilized by artists.
So there are,
What's the total number of
Yeah.
apartments there?
there's 20, I want to give you the exact number. There are 25 artist residency studios.
Those are
Those are the
those are studios
those are the local, yeah.
those are the studios that they work in, or is it?
Those
Is that correct?
that are working, those are not.
Right, I'm interested in the total number of apartments.
There are 27 units or 32 bedrooms.
Can you tell me the sizes of these apartments? Now?
Most of them are either studios in one bedroom. The law, the new ordinance provides that less than 50% of them must be 2 bedrooms. Currently, out of the 27 to 3, that are 2 bedrooms. They don't complex significantly more than that. The average stay in one of those is probably approximately 2 weeks. And we do all audit there to do special units or performances and programs or training.
One of the application also stated you could have staff living at the site for up to a year.
They allowed a permanent lodging for full-time staff such as building and ground maintenance staff, program coordinators and the like. 15%, so that was 15. The code provides 15% of the total. So that would be 4. At the presently, there are no staff living there.
And those 4 apartments would be what size? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom,
1 bedroom, 1 bedroom.
1 bedroom. So that would be for a family of 2 people.
Or single person who live carefully.
And that's up to a year.
There's
No timing.
no timing, but I should say that the 27 number includes both the residency and the permit. So that's an accurate number. So 4 out of that 27 would be eligible. And again, that was, resident.
As I stated previously, you did a beautiful job in explaining what the client intends to do. I haven't had the experience that at least I have with the other board members here. They've gotten a special permit that we've granted in the past. What the client has gone on to do, whatever he wanted to do, complete disregard for the special permit, that either he gets caught or doesn't get caught. I personally have a real problem with regards to granting, an overall approval for this new local law that was board approved, knowing that the compliance of the previous special permit has been completely disregarded, whether it was a not-for-profit, whether it's for arts. I look at, the violations that I've asked for a copy from the building department. I personally, again, don't see we're having a wedding reception at the site. Complete disregard for the safety and well-being of close to 200 people that are not supposed to be there. And it's a mea culpa, and you can get, a fine, and client just continues to go do what he wants to go do. And there's really no ramifications. We can't do anything here with the zoning board of appeals. I could give permission for special permits. We can give permission for area variances and such an interpretation and use variances. I can't give violations. And when you go in front of a judge, I can't say what the fine is going to be. So I do have a problem because there's a complete disregard for whatever this board has granted this applicant since 2016, that they do what they want to go do and suffer no consequences. And here we are now, that all of the above are now included into this new local law that I understand what the town board approved. And I have no control of what the building department prior to John and the violations that are given, and whether or not, there are any, mandatory fines that would prevent your client continue doing what he's doing.
Sure. The incident that you referred to, wedding, there was some question as to, there was confusion whether this would be a permitted activity, and yes, mea culpa. This was a mistake on their part. They realize it. The current zoning does not permit weddings now. That was clarified. Some confusion as to whether they might be able to.
Excuse me for a second. This is art related. You try to explain to me what's art related in a wedding reception at that site for more than the CO number of people. Explain that to me.
I don't think, I'm not sure we ever got a violation. Or
You like, excuse me.
no, I didn't. We got a violation. We got a violation.
You received the town of Austining Code of Ordinances for your client, not you personally, and the New York State Building and Fire Code.
And the fire, what happened on the fire, there was two assertions made of the fire. One, that when the alarm went off, and after it went off, and Mr. Klein, he said he did not realize that he was not supposed to stay after. So that was a mistake on his part. The assertion that they were not allowed to enter was wrong. And we wrote a letter to the town, explained it, and made it very clear that it must have been a mistake on someone's part. Maybe it was an individual, but the fire people were allowed on access to it, got onto the property immediately, and dealt with it. So, that was a violation. I mean, that was something. There was, I think, they felt that they acknowledged it, or letter, we acknowledged it. It was a mistake. And in 7 years, that's pretty much,
It's a little more than that.
Major violation that they.
Yes, a little more than that. There were bees that were being farmed there with a complete violation because the town of Ossining, when he had his bee farm there, forbid bees in the town of Ossining. It is now included, okay, but it didn't make any difference at that time. And we had numerous meetings with regards to the bee farm there. How come he couldn't take it out? Because it was the worst time, okay, of it being moved, but it didn't make any difference to your farm. He did his bees, even though it was a completely against no zoning. Forgetting about zoning, there was no zoning. It said in the book, no bees. Didn't make any difference. He had his bees. And now it's incorporated into, okay, the new local law. That's wonderful. But complete disregard for rules and regulations. And let's go to another one with regards to renting out, okay, to a film studio and having numerous tractor trailers lighting up the whole parking lot there. I don't see where arts and trailers being parked in a parking lot disturbing, okay, residential area. That's why you come in here for a special permit. Because this is not supposed to be in a residential area. So with all due respect, council, telling me that, over the past 7 years is only a couple is what he's caught at and not caught at, or what people don't complain about. So I understand what this new local law incorporates completely. Completely. It's all of the above that's now legal. I'd like to have what type of insurance, okay, are we going to have after we do something like this, whether this board agrees or disagrees? Is that he's not going to go back and put a football field there if he wants to, or whatever else, and then get his hands slapped for continue doing, okay, items that are not supposed to be done. I'm sure he's not doing this for nothing. I'm sure he gets paid.
Not at all. We're not getting paid. That's so. Sure. There's been some mistakes. I understand the mistake, but I think the history of this site, many of the things that are going on in the site, any activities going on, many of the rules and regulations that were meant to protect the neighborhood, and for the substantial majority, 90+% of the time, 98% of the time, they've been in complete compliance, enough that the community seems to have, for the most part, accepted it and felt comfortable with it, and they've developed a harmonious relationship. Or respectfully, I don't think the town would have also undertaken the law, and it was done with little, if any, opposition from the community. So, yes, there've been mistakes. We all make mistakes. I think we went through this process to have the law down. I think for the most part, it's been an amazing asset for the community. Neighborhoods accepted it. And yes, it can't make those mistakes that we want to make it better. And I think when you look at the history of this site, the vast majority of percentages find it in complete compliance. And frankly, that's why they hired me. They also hired me, they didn't have counsel there. They didn't fully, I think, appreciate some of the rules and regulations and how they work. And we've tried to be very concise and very clear in explaining those. So I think net mistakes, yes. Have they been most of the time? Yes. They're a tremendous asset, I think. And I think they've shown have a document, a law that I think it's one that is going to hold up well in the site. Then we all pass if they don't comply.
But again, like the chairman said, what kind of calling the pass? You say in your letter they continue to comply. Well, we know that's not. discussion. They haven't continued to apply. We don't know. We know there were a number of them that were actually cited, but there's some I'm sure that weren't. Not up there the entire time. What kind of reasonable guarantees do we have? I mean,
I think the
the
best,
way most people work, you make one mistake, you make two mistakes. You're gonna make a third mistake, then I pick up the phone and call my attorney down. We don't see anything back. I mean, I appreciate what your clients' facilities do for the community. I mean, they have great programs there. People really enjoy it. But we can't keep having violations. We need some sort of a guarantee, like a watchdog.
well, I think, great point. I think your biggest, the best, and most robust watchdogs in the community. I mean, they're the ones that live right there. They're the ones that I know came out in droves at the last hearings, because they were afraid. They were nervous about what this use was going to be like. Would they be compatible? Would they be in harmony? Would they be conscientious? Would they, for the most part, almost essentially live up to the commitments they made? I think they have to, in the vast most part, for that community. You live in this community. I live in a community. If your neighbor does something that is violating, you're calling somebody.
I will, but there's a lot of people who are apathetic. They've got more things on their
But
mind
they weren't,
rather than tractor trailers running their lights all
but
night
they
long.
weren't apathetic. The community, that is I read all the minutes. It is a local scrutinizing committee that was very, very involved in the last application.
If there had been a fire the night of that wedding, I hate to think what would have. I just, it horrifies
But
me.
it is-
That a grown
Yeah,
person
but
would
all
not
the- all
even
the-
think to call the local police department for lovely young men and women to come out and see what was wrong.
They came right out. They were.
And they apparently wouldn't let anybody in.
That's,
Well,
I put,
There's a
no, I
difference
put in a
between
letter,
them.
I put in a letter that there was a mistake in the part
I'm-
of firehouse.
Michael, you want to?
Yeah, please.
Casey from your law firm there in Stein, that's attorney for the applicant. Michael, I just want to state for the record, there are no currently outstanding violations on the property. So with respect to the application currently before you, as far as we know, none of the violations discussed are outstanding. They have all been resolved, especially the ones that happened a few years ago. With respect to the wedding incident you are all referring to, again, as we put in a letter to the town a few months back or when that first happened, it was actually something more like 80 people on the property. I know the initial report that came from, I'm not sure who this, it was a lot of plain telephone is my understanding, is communication saying there were over 200 people there. That was absolutely not true. However, Bethany completely took responsibility for that mishap with the fire alarm. I know that they have resubmitted their fire safety action plan to the building department at the time, and all of their employees and residents and trainees have trained with that and will abide by that. So as with all due respect, Mr. Chairman, all fire violations have been resolved. And with respect to safeguarding, that violations won't happen in the future. Under the local law, there is still that 3-year renewal provision. You can require Bethany to come back every 3 years on renewal. They will have to submit copies of any violations that have been issued in between and prove that they have been resolved or any fines paid, et cetera. So it's our view that right there is your safeguard or guarantee, trusting your building and park department to enforce the special permit, and that Bethany won't violate anything again. And in the unlikely event they do, they will work it out and resolve it and these, any use violations. And just to bring up the wedding just one last time, I think we put this in our letter, and Michael also briefly touched upon this. It was not entirely clear that that was not a permitted use of, the fire resolution contemplated events without specifying what types of events. And as we pointed out to the town previously, there is actually a specific exception explicitly written into the town's special events permit code that exempts weddings on private property from needing a special event permit. Again, Bethany acknowledged that having that wedding without, giving a heads up to anyone was wrong, and they haven't done it again, and the fire violations will definitely not happen again. We are all sure of that. But I just wanted to give some background on the record as to the, miscommunications there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about going forward, what things look like, particularly compliance with local law. And there are a number of, I cited in this letter, elements of compliance. One thing I had asked for previously, 3 years ago, was site plan include 100-foot zone site, so that anybody either reviewing this or in the future violations happening, any of what would be property, that's the community property. Then to piggyback on that, this letter it states that no building structures, parking, or loading areas, outdoor uses, activities, or events are or shall be located within the sphere of line, which I don't think is accurate. Site plan or property suggesting parking be moved. There are existing uses relative to local.
How do you address that?
Yeah. The discussion that's been happening. I've been with this application and this project for chairman, and just to provide a little bit of context, back in 2016, when the applicant first got their special permit, they weren't actually operational. So it was all kind of, here's what we think we're going to do. And then we found out that in addition to what they thought they were going to do, there were summer camps, there were a lot of things that hadn't been contemplated and hadn't been included in the special use permit. And so when they came back in 2020, this board put an extensive amount of time and effort into trying to extrapolate what every single use was going to be, so that they can make sure it was all delineated in the resolution, that they wouldn't come up against these issues again. The special event permit, chapter 166, that the applicant's attorneys have referenced, did not exist at the time of the special use permit that this board adopted in 2020. But I agree with that. This use was always contemplated as being art related and an artist community. And so, I'm not going to get into it about any ambiguity, but so I think what we're hearing from the board members is that over the years, the board has tried to address these issues, but then new issues keep coming up. So how do we make sure, if the board is inclined to do so productively going forward, we can have some sort of mechanism in place? And I'm thinking just off the top of my head, and it may be something we have to think about more thoroughly, but maybe, quarterly or every 6 months, the applicant submits a sworn statement that goes through the law and says, I'm in compliance with what's X, Y, and Z, just so that they have to, on a more regular basis than once every 3 years, look at the code, look at what they're doing, and make sure that they comply with it. Is that something that may be something that's worth considering? That could then be submitted to the building department and the zoning board as an additional assurance if the board and the applicant are trying to respond to.
So there are a couple other items. One is, local law 10, it indicates that there should be designated areas for bus parking. So. Third item. Indoor events, that are rented indoor events. Art events. There's provisions in affiliated. General places directly adjacent to the building. Back, parking lot there.
There's a small patio area.
But knowing exactly where would occur.
That attorney. Consult with my client, but. An idea makes sense. Makes the applicant.
Probably makes sense after all. Some.
Yeah, well, first of all, my general sense is, and I have not been through, I was not on the board of 2016, but I see in a way this board has been given a slightly uncommon legal responsibility. And the arts can challenge rigid legal systems. And I think that's what we have here. We have a very creative organization coming in and taking over a large piece of property and trying to make it alive again. And I think my general feeling is it had, from now I've read everything that I got over the last couple of weeks. It might be considered to be rough, but I don't. I think they were all rectified, but I particularly like the forward statements that they took responsibility. That's a real beginning of a relationship. The other side says, you made a mistake, we can start somewhere then. And I particularly like the way there are some minor things that I think should be addressed when you get down to voting. You mentioned that three topics. And I particularly like the idea of having a creative way that we can continue to have a relationship here rather than going from one mistake into another mistake. So I really like the idea of whatever we come up with. I like the 6 months or something into that quarterly arrangement. And that, for me personally, is to show support for the organization. So it's not like we're going to be overlooking this. Let's not make the mistakes that we made.
In your behalf, I think you've done some wonderful things. I took the liberty of looking up the word art, which is a very amorphous term, and it basically says, rough explanation, expression of skill, imagination, creativity, for example, painting, music, literature, dance. I think that's really an asset for the community. But what concerns me is anything that veers away from that, that can affect the safety or health or welfare of the community. Or has nothing to do whatever, or without somebody first getting some approval from the town board. So, yeah, I think the idea of an audit, self-audit every 6 months would kind of be good to kind of rein that into the good things that they can do. Instead of things that we think concerning for that are not involved in.
Go up to the public here. Does that want to make a statement? Name, address.
Suarez, live right across the street, 31 Summers Temple.
Can you come up and voice it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And I'm just unsure of what this special permit is, like, what is you want to have more people on this property? I just want some clarification, not understanding it.
Well, to be honest with you, most of the, some of the questions that I had given to the building department is that, you know, we sent out notices with regards to this application, and any additional information that was required should have been looked up online or coming over to the building department. I think it would have been better for the town to send out the new local law 10 to everybody that was notified about this. But I will make those decisions. At the town, there is a new local law that basically states what the town board approved last year, which encompasses, you know, above and beyond the special permit that we gave 7 years ago. And our attorney was 100% correct that there was a lot of floundering with regards to what was allowed and not allowed until 2020. And then it was really specific of what the special permit and BAC was allowed to do. So above and beyond what we was allowed to do and what he did, 2 different things. And that's why we brought it up to show on the record of what we have, what has transpired. And these are the items that we just know about, forgetting about what the people say or do not say. To the building inspector, most of the stuff happens on weekends, they're not here. We call the police, they call the town. But, you know, it was basically up to, you know, the homeowners in and around this residential area is to take a look at what, you know, this town board approved and what we are trying to do with regards to BAC into, you know, an arts community. Everything that was not allowed before is now written in. You're allowed to have bees there, but it has to be 100 feet away. Art related, and our board member said just wide open. I could not see where, you know, a wedding is art related, and they go for any, you know, special permit from the building department to do it. But that's what's all incorporated now. So, yeah, you and every homeowner should really understand, number one, what this local law that the town board approved, which is basically now on the shoulders of the ZBA to give them this special permit, which again, you know, in the past, it's been every 3 years. I don't know if I would want to go continue every 3 years with regards to it. You know, the local law 10 also says the building inspector now has the right to go renew this unless he finds it, you know, advantageous if there's numerous violations to come back to the ZBA. So they're basically taking it out of our venue at this stage again, as long as he doesn't get any complaints. So to answer your question, there's a lot incorporated into what BAC will be able to do going forward on this piece of property.
So I can find this information online. Is that how I do it?
Yeah.
I'd like
Or you
to
can
know-
go, fast forward, you can make your copy.
I'll see if do it in there. Yeah, That's
wasn't
what I
sent
did
out.
wrong then. I didn't look on the website.
No, it generally isn't. Our applications would have been 50 pages. So everything is available on the website and can be reviewed. The function of the town board adopting a local law was to create a special permit use that was explicitly for artist communities. Previously, it was operating under this general not-for-profit organizational type of use that really didn't have any sort of restrictions or regulations specific to this unique type of use. So what the town board did was they looked at, they actually used the zoning board's 2020 resolution that spent an ample amount of time looking at those uses that were generally included in artist community, tried to incorporate them into a law that made sense. There were certain uses that were expanded. The beekeeping law use was adopted separate and before the artist communities law. So, but that's something that the town board does continuously as issues come up. So that the artist communities local law was adopted at the end of 2020. But we can certainly provide that for the availability of the public.
I have one question. Is this property taxed?
Yes.
Okay, so to have a wedding there is a big no-no because that's the problem, right?
Yes.
Okay,
That's really not something, it's not, I mean,
well, I just wanted.
Well, no, I think she has a valid point, is that if this is a not-for-profit. It's
We
supposed to
paid
be
a lot
arts
of
related.
taxes here.
This was, yeah. I don't think VAC put on a wedding for one of their staff, but I have no idea.
that is really beyond this.
But it's still a valid point. whether it
Well,
was
as a homeowner that pays a lot of tax, quite honestly. Thank you.
Now, we do have one attendee on Zoom who would like to speak. Howard Fleischer. There's just a little pause to switch over from an attendee to a panelist. Mr. Fleischer?
Yes, and I hope to do my video. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I injured my Achilles tendon, so I'm attending this at this time. But it's important enough for me to log on behalf of the community and the residents of Tavano Road. I am a community organizer, and I will tell you that the majority, I would say almost the entirety of Tavano Road supports Bethany Arts Community. And I just want to say that this is a work in progress. And it's a courageous effort on behalf of something that is unique and very special for the benefit of not just Ossining, but the greater Westchester community. And yes, there have been things in the gray area that have occurred.
Really?
But I will say,
Yes.
can you hear me? Am I? Hello?
Yes.
Can I be heard? Okay. Well, I don't know if you heard everything I said till now, but I will just say, there's the expression of, looking at the hole in the donut. And I have a sense that the zoning board of appeals right now is looking at the hole and not looking at the donut. I think that you have to take the entirety of the effort of what's been brilliantly created as a center for the arts that has even yet to be tapped to its fullest potential. And I will say that the the at least the residents of Savannah, everyone that I've spoken to, and we are a very special community because, as you may or may not know, our street has been designated on the National Register of Historical Neighborhoods for mid-century modern homes, and is very highly respected and recognized. And we have a neighbor who is very, very sensitive to any concern that any of our neighbors may raise, and in a very generous and very sensitive way addresses anything that needs to be taken care of. We have our kids ride their bikes through their backyards onto the property. There is a amazing community spirit that is enjoyed not just by our neighborhood, but I would say by surrounding neighborhoods. And yes, there are occasions where people might complain, but I will tell you on the flip side, I have witnessed people throwing their garbage from their backyards over a fence onto Bethany's property. I have witnessed things that where people are blasting their music and noise from their backyards that infringe upon the quietness and the solitude of Bethany. There's a water tower that has a noise that when it's stirring the water, that creates a disturbing noise that is very disruptive to the property of Bethany. And I would just say that if you're looking at the whole and you're not looking at the donut, you're missing a very important thing here. So there may be other members of the community, especially from Tzba, that will chime in. But I will just tell you that, you know, there are in the gray areas things that
Mr. Fleischer, we're losing your audio.
I'm sorry.
Your
Can you hear me
3
now?
minutes are up. I'm sorry, your 3 minutes allowed to speak are up now.
Did you hear my audio completely during those 3 minutes?
It was breaking up through it, but we did hear most of it, yes.
Okay, well, I just want to close with the fact that if you need a petition from the 30 or so homeowners on Tzba to show the support to the board of our belief that what they're doing is to the benefit of Ossining and should be continued, I will deliver those signatures to you. I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we do have one more. Jess Wright would like to speak.
Okay, hello?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, some delay and I have terrible audio, so please forgive any gaps. I hear so much fear in the complaint tonight overall. I want to say that, you know, I'm really empathetic for anybody who is fearing what is happening near their home. That said, I'm also a homeowner on Summerstown, and I think there is no better neighbor that we could possibly have in this location. Bethany Arts Community is providing an invaluable service to kids, Ossining kids of all backgrounds, regardless of means. And simply it brings together people who make things, and I couldn't ask for a better neighbor. So I just want to say, if there is wiggle room to be had, this is an organization that deserves it. And if, you know, I would just like to see our town be friendly to this progressive force for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have, yes, okay.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
We could hear you.
Okay, please raise your hand if the audio goes bad. I'm a Tavana Road resident. My home is on the other side of the street. My backyard doesn't back up onto the property. I would like to tell you recently, the town of Austining had permitted the building of a home on 68 Somerstown Road. This morning, I had to call the DEP for the third time because the workers there have been crossing over our property line and throwing buckets of cement into the pond. This is all designated wetlands. Anybody familiar with this part of Austining knows there's a huge amount of wildlife. Very disappointed. The town of Austining permitted this building to go up, the structure to go up without ensuring that it was in fact 100 feet of a distance from a wetland body. And it's kind of been a nightmare for all of us around here on this side, you know, and I came from Tarrytown before. The music hall, it's just suffocatingly tight. Tarrytown is so overdeveloped at this point, it's tragic. And it's going north. And I feel like a little piece of Austining was sold out. And I see all my neighbors being very upset. And I don't know any of you, but I really hope that you won't sell out something as rare as this, as rare as an arts community. Okay, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm like living a tragedy here because of this project that's going on behind me. Oh, so is the environment, by the way, because now all the ducks are going and pooping all over my driveway, and they're walking up through the backs of the houses, and they're pooping all over the street, and the deer are crossing the street more and more and more, not walking through the grass. So preserving it, would really like to see it. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Mr. London, please call the building department.
Please call the building department
Please.
regarding what?
We're regarding your concerns, the environmental issues, and we'll follow through on that.
You mean with the property happening next to mine?
With this
Issues that I'm
one that
going
you were
through
just speaking
personally?
about.
The
Yes,
ones I'm speaking of personally?
yes, please.
Oh,
call the-
okay, on the other side of the street.
Yes,
Okay, are you interested in hearing more about it?
not at this time, but
How Welcome Homes is damaging my property? Not this
Mr.
time,
London?
okay.
right.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
You're welcome.
Next.
No, and I will say one thing,
Joey, hand out. Hey, right.
Joanne Riley, 24 Smithtown Road, actually, right next door. I know there's, I've been to a lot of these meetings with, factory lots, and I know there's been a bumps in the road, but that's what we said. Things good for the community, I saw those thinking there, and I do advocate for that, and I feel that, it's helpful because it's.
We do have one more, Juan.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Hi, yeah, I'm also a resident of Tabano Road. And I just want to say that I've been in Austin for like 6 years. And Austin has a lot of opportunities with the river. The library is pretty beautiful, unique, the downtown area with the Earth Day. But the most fun I've had, evenings I've had in terms of ideas and art for my house, and my wife has done some art over there, is a Bethany. It's a really valuable resource. This resource is unique, and it's I cannot believe that people use so much effort to create something as beautiful and valuable for this community. Kids have lots of opportunities during the summer. There's so much imagination and ideas for everybody. It's a really great resource for this for our town.
Juan, can you state your last name, please, for the record?
Rivera,
I'm sorry, we could not hear you.
Rivera.
IB.
Last name is Rivera, Rivera.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you clearly.
Like Mariano.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No others.
Any other comments from people here? Public hearing. Take a vote on the approval of the application for a special permit. What's the local 10 with stipulation. Full agreement with the county attorney that the one statement of the 6 months from the applicant. What we have done previously. For the guidelines that have to be followed. Have a view of the parking area, the 100-foot buffer that should be definitely done in the survey. I have a problem with regards to the 3-year approval process. And I would require the building inspector to notify the zoning board chairman, whoever that may be in the future, with regards to anything that may come up with regards to DAC, this complemental complaints. And the problem that I agree fully that I think the DAC here. I just hope that the owners of BAC take a lot more consideration in the previous approvals of these special permits, what they think or do not think they're allowed to do with the site, and hopefully build a better relationship. So like we would just continue to approve the special permit on the basis.
Nominated areas for outdoor.
The 6 month idea of them giving a report, hopefully could be not just them giving, but some sort of a little bit of process other than, I don't know, who they give it to and it's a little part of the problem is that, as I said before, the zoning board after this evening's meeting has no control over what they do or do not do unless it comes up for renewal. Okay. In the majority of the cases, sure, you on the board, is that the only time there is a problem is when there is a problem that someone says something. Similar to the fire alarm going off because it was short. Otherwise, no one would have known there was 100 people there at a wedding reception. So the building inspector is in a tough position here, unless, you know, we require, and I don't have a problem in doing this, is having, you know, a set inspection of every, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to try to go there, see what's going on and report back. We can't do it. So I feel a little better with regards to a sworn statement. And hopefully there's nobody that complains about anything or during the course of an inspection, whether it's with the apartments, the residential use, the number of people that are at, you know, the camp, the number of people that are at a function on a Saturday or a Sunday there for a bazaar or any other, you know, we're not there counting the people. Building inspector is not there counting the number of people. It's great to say no more than 50, 75, 100. Who's watching? Nobody's watching. So it's really on the applicant's shoulders to do the right thing. And just, again, reiterating, part of the problem is that even though, as council said, you know, over 7 years, there hasn't been that many, there's more than enough after getting the privilege of a special permit to continue doing things that are in violation of the special permit. Moving forward, we'll do what we can to regulate it, but I don't think there's much else that, you know, we could require on our end here, other than having the building inspector spend more time and energy, you know, at that site. Really only because it's in a residential area, and that's why there is a special permit. Can I ask you a quick question? Doesn't paragraph 3 on page 9, or the rest of us that there's an issue with like the building inspector or the chief, the police or the fire chief? It's activities on the property that were not contemplated. Right. That's, you know,
That's
that's
only
it.
to know about it.
That's if somebody complains. I agree, that's why you ask them to test every 6 months. I agree with them. I don't have a problem with testing every 6 months and seeing what goes on and whether or not there's any violations, be it the fire department, police department, or building inspector. I have no problem with that.
Mr. Donald, what would the ramifications be if he lies in the affidavit?
Perjury? I mean,
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, does it equal a document filed with a governmental agency that would result in a forgery or a perjury arrest? Or something akin to that? Or, because otherwise it's not really worth the paper it's written on.
You're right, but it is.
Better than nothing.
You're right. You know, this is not a murder trial where
No, I
you're
know.
sworn, even though I've been to zoning boards where everybody is sworn in. And I was contemplating doing that, but I didn't want to change my MO.
many applications are required to be sworn when you submit them, you know. A lot of times when you submit the information on your application, you have to swear to the accuracy of the statements because that's really, in most instances or a lot of instances, all the board has to rely upon. I think the intent is more to, because from what I was hearing early on in the discussion, have a kind of what the term auditing process or self-policing, to require them to take a look at the code and make sure that, oh, right, this is my limit, or, oh, right, and make sure that they're complying with that.
Right, so there won't be any mistakes made.
Exactly, so we don't get to the point where we have an issue like what we've discussed before. I mean, it's not perfect, but I don't know what
It
is
is
best.
something,
I can think.
and I think that the applicant, having to do a sworn statement, would have to be very careful with regards to this, because if he's signing a sworn statement that everything is copacetic, and we have a violation that happened because of the police department, fire department, or building inspector, yes, there's going to be a problem, and that's why I want the building inspector to notify the chairman, so that, we have a running, scenario of what is going on at the site. It is not perfect,
It's
it's just something.
to your point. It forces the applicant to self-audit, to go back over, put its name to a document, and I'm in compliance and review. It's a good procedure. And quite frankly, since they brought us on, we've had those discussions. I mean, there's been a number of times that they were thinking of doing something, they called us and said, are we permitted to do this under the code under the regulations? Codes, regulations. They're not, drafts of precision all the time. They don't tell you about everything. So I think there's a risk responsibility being taken, and I think self-audit. And if you want, maybe you just put in that we work out the procedure with council. In other words,
That's a great
what
idea.
the
And
typical
form,
is,
whatever, yeah,
procedure.
that's fine. And just for the record, this is consistent with what's already in the law regarding the renewal process.
Mhm.
Only that's only every 3 years. So this is basically but that's one of the steps when they go in for renewal every 3 years, and whether they go back to the zoning board or it's issued by the building department. But this is just increasing the frequency of that process to every 6 months. And then the rest of it would all just come to pass at the 3-year mark as regulated by the code.
So all in favor with these stipulations?
Aye.
Aye. I think the record show that it's unanimous with the stipulations, and we wish you all the best of luck.
And I will write up a resolution memorializing boards.
Great. Thank you so much for everybody's time and energy.